Yeah, so I was invited by Maria Isa to join, and I thought that it would be a good opportunity to learn about all the things that women face outside of, I guess not academia, but my current surrounding environment of being in university and in the classroom. Honestly, I think that when I first joined, I didn't really think it was that big of a deal, and I didn't really realize that people would kind of see me as different. But then I would start to go to events and people would be like, "You're really brave." And I didn't really realize why they were saying that. But then I guess now, after being to so many events, I realized that people think it's brave because it's like being the odd one out almost. And to me, it doesn't feel like that. But, and I think that's why I continue to volunteer, and I think it's totally fine. Yeah, so I think that allyship is important from both perspectives. From the perspective of males, if they see people being allies for programs like this, then they would be more easily inclined to accept what's happening and maybe be on board, maybe be more interested, and then eventually get involved themselves. And I also think that it's important from the other perspective as well, because having a diverse set of people validate what's happening, I think, is very encouraging, and I think it's something that can help promote equality in STEM. I decided to volunteer with SCWIST was just to get more insight into what struggles I should prepare myself to see women have in the real world, and I think it's important for me to have exposure to that before I actually get into the real world and while I'm still studying, because while being a student, I don't actually see that much inequities firsthand, so there's nothing very obtrusive. Like, it's not like I see someone be very sexist firsthand, but it's rather maybe seeing that in my computer science classes there's much less women than there are boys, but I think that in the real world the story's a bit different there, so I think it's important to get that exposure as soon as possible. Yeah, for SCWIST I was most involved with volunteering to kind of start up the Brown Bag Talk series at UBC. I worked with Dr. Evelyn Paisman to bring it back to life pretty much. Right before the pandemic, we would try to organize these talks at UBC. We'd get different women in STEM to give these talks, and it'd be like a networking event. So I helped out with different aspects of planning that, most specifically into analytics of people, the feedback that people gave. I got a lot of good feedback for this. A lot of the feedback was very positive, and I think that there was very specific things that people wanted to see more of, so that was more so connecting with others, like making it more so a networking thing. But overall, it was a lot of good feedback, and people really enjoyed these SCWIST Brown Bag Talks. Yeah, so if you were to go to a SCWIST Brown Bag Talk, what you should expect is to have a keynote speaker, I guess keynote. So one person who's giving a talk on kind of listening to it for a bit, and there would be like refreshments, like snacks, drinks, and it'd be kind of like a networking event after the talk was given. So people would get to talk to each other, talk about the topic, and just get more insight into what that field of STEM was. I think the most surprising thing for me was the lack of kind of having role models. And the reason why it was so surprising for me is because I think it's something that was just in my life intrinsically that I didn't really think about. Like, I could look up to a certain person in a certain profession and they might look like me. I might be able to identify with them, but that's not always the case for women. And I think that was the most surprising thing for me, even though it's pretty clear once you understand it and see it. In my experience, I think one of the most important components of SCWIST is the networking as well as inclusive component, where people give each other opportunities and really bring light to different aspects of different opportunities in STEM. And the reason why I think this is really important, especially for people who are recent immigrants, is because in my life I saw my mother try to struggle to get an engineering job in Canada, and she didn't really have the resources or the network to know how to do this. And because there's just so many barriers for her, it was very difficult, and I think she really would have benefited from this networking as well as the inclusivity that SCWIST has to offer. For me personally, I think the reason why it's important for me to learn what struggles women go through in STEM is because I would like to eventually pursue medicine, where there is both men and women working in the workplace, and it's important to understand everyone's perspective so that I can create as inclusive of an environment as possible, as well as because medicine is such a collaborative endeavor, I think that it's important for me to understand everyone's perspective in that sense to make the most effective and efficient team possible.